So that is it. Destruction for gold. It appears our natural resources, our land, our water bodies are going waste. And you saw the kinds of, content our different rivers are producing, as yesterday we hosted my colleague Erastus Asari-Donko. So we've been in the Nimri Forest Reserve, Samreboy in the Western region, and it's on the back of that latest Hotline documentary, Destruction for Gold. We get into the details of that with our guests, starting with Inusa Fuseni, a former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. A very good morning to you, Mr. Fuseni.
How are you?
I am very well. I hope you are too.
I'm good.
Great. Yeah. What is your reaction? I'm sure you've followed that latest Hotline documentary, what we've put forward, and you've seen the state of the river bodies in some parts of the country. It left a very bitter taste in my mouth yesterday when I saw all of these river bodies, about 8 of them, and what the water looked like. Later in the evening, I listened to some fisher folk talk about the quality of produce they're getting now and how even the fish seem to have evolved negatively. But what is your reaction to this latest documentary?
I think it's proper for me to congratulate Joy FM for this documentary. I watched it yesterday. I think that this is what could bring the issue of the illegal mining activities and its ravaging effect on the environment to the fore. I mean, many people they cannot perceive or understand and see clearly the damage that is being caused to our environment by the activities of galamseyers. And so I think it's proper for me to congratulate UFM for this wonderful piece of documentary. I was not shocked. We have always known that the activities of these miners being pursued with careless abandon will lead us to this state of affairs. And we have always suspected official collaboration in this illegal activity of galamseyers. And so I was not surprised. I mean, hasn't it come to you as a surprise that the government, when it took over the reins of this country in 2017, placed a blanket ban on illegal small-scale mining for close to 2 years? The Bank of Ghana reports that within the same period, about $10 billion of gold was exported to 3 countries, India, UAE, United Arab Emirates, and Switzerland. Where did the gold come from? And who were those who were mining the gold? And so clearly, I mean, this matter clearly has been a matter where the government has closed its eyes to the nefarious activities of some illegal small-scale miners who are sympathetic to the government. I mean, hasn't it? I mean, isn't it baffling that the initial equipment that were seized by the task force went missing? Close to 700 equipment went missing, and nobody was held accountable. Don't you think that will embolden the military and the police to also take the law into their own hands, and that when they confiscate or seize property on the illegal small-scale mining sites, they keep it to themselves? Because, I mean, if they send it to the authorities, they'll get missing anyway.
That's a rather dour reflection on this situation. Are you saying that basically the cause is lost? This morning I was interacting with Liz Hafen-Asari, who also shared her thoughts on the matter, and she was basically asking me, what fight against the galamsey? In other words, for her there is no fight, and I have spoken to people who have shared similar thinking. But you cannot fail to see that there has been some action. You cannot fail to see that whatever your problems may be with the Lands and Natural Resources Minister currently, Mr. Jinapo, he called 5 of his regional ministers from different regions to help address the situation. You cannot run away from the fact that something is being done, but is it enough?
Nothing is being done. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That is grandstanding. You know political grandstanding? When the speeches, the pronouncements, a public pronouncement of people in authority seem to suggest that something is happening, and on the ground, it is not reflective. It doesn't reflect those pronouncements. That's grandstanding. Okay? Now, how do you explain that nobody was held responsible for the presence of 838 chamfans on the River Ofen? How do you explain that people have gone into the forest reserves when the law clearly prohibits mining in the forest reserves, and they are bold enough to confront chiefs and say that they got their mineral rights from the Minerals Commission? How can you explain that somebody working at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources conspires with another person to mine illegally while taking money under false pretenses from that person? And when that person who mines when the person working at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is arrested, he's not charged with complicity in illegal mining. He's charged with defrauding by false pretenses. Clearly, the sentence for defrauding by false pretenses is lower than the sentence for engaging in illegal small-scale mining. Was it by accident that the ministry decided that such a person should be tried under the defrauding by false pretenses? How can you explain when the minister himself issues a communique and says that Akunta Mining was not given a permit to mine in the Samaraboa forest, and clearly gives us details of when the application for a permit, a mineral rights, was submitted to his office, 25th August 2022. Meanwhile, even before then, Akunta Mining was mining in that forest. And he has just been told to stop. He's just been told to stop. And the Forestry Commission to take action to prevent him from entering the forest. What about these activities there? So this is grandstanding. That is why we are losing the fight. I mean, haven't you heard of the complicity of ministers of state, of party officials, of DCs, of people attached to the government working at the Flagstaff House, engaged in small-scale mining, illegal small-scale mining? Haven't you heard those reports? What do you think that report does to people?
But Mr. Fuseni, has this been proven beyond reasonable doubt? Do you realize that these are serious matters that could come with serious consequences, which is why the law, and you know the law, ensures that before you go about, making such allegations, you have your facts right. In the instance of Akunta mining, the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP has come out to say he is not engaged in illegal mining.
I'm not speaking about Akunta Mining and the Chief Executive of Akunta Mining. I'm speaking to the official publication, official letter issued by the minister. Have you read that letter? Have you read it? This is coming from official sources. A person we have put in place to administer the affairs of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. He says Akunta Mining was not given mineral rights. And do you choose to believe the Chief Executive Officer of Akunta Mining over the letter from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources? Is that your allocation of the burden of proof? No. That should not be the case. My brother, things take their color from their surroundings. We have, even very early in the game, very early in 2017, I was already receiving reports as former Minister of Lands and Natural Resources that what the government had simply done by placing the blanket ban was to reverse the issue. The government had clearly prohibited small-scale mining and allowed persons sympathetic to the small-scale miners, to the government, to mine under the cover of darkness. And we have, what's his name? The Secretary to the Anti-Galamsey, or what is it, Galamsop, and the Arimia.
You're referring to Charles Bissu?
Yes. We saw the revelations. So if government put a blanket ban on illegal small-scale mining, how come that 10 million, the Bank of Ghana, unless you also choose to believe that the ban was effective? The Bank of Ghana reports that $10 billion worth of gold was exported to 3 countries within the period that there was a total ban on mining activities, small-scale mining activities in this country.
So these are some interesting dynamics that you bring to bear. Let me bring in Mr. Al Hassan as well. Communications Director, Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. Mr. Al-Hassan, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Now, when you look at the latest trajectory that this entire conversation has taken, it is clear that we are losing out. It is clear that our natural resources, both land and water, are petering out. They are being lost to the menace of illegal mining, aka Galamsey. What is the position of your group as small-scale miners on where we stand currently on the issue?
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. It's very sad. As an association, we are very sad about this whole issue. The reason being that there are many people in this country who always blame the small-scale miners and always call them illegal small-scale mining. But per the law, there's no law in this country which gives licenses for small-scale miners to mine on river bodies. There's no law in this country which gives small-scale mining licenses to mine in forest reserves. So who are those mining in these forest reserves? Who are those mining on these river bodies? But any time the conversation comes on, people describe all the activity as illegal small-scale miners. Why always? Because per the laws that we have, before you can even enter into the forest, I think they give recognizance, prospecting, and leases to mine in the forest. So why not mentioning large-scale and always small-scale mining, illegal small-scale miners? Because it's very clear that those who are into the forest, they are not small-scale miners. We need to get things straight so that at the end of the day, we know the conversation, how we are tackling the whole thing. So the state now has worsened, but always mentioning illegal small-scale mining, Why not illegal mining in general, rather than adding the small scale? So that if we are tackling the whole thing, it should be illegal miners evading the places, rather than adding small scale. Meanwhile, there's no law in this country which gives licenses for us to mine these places.
So that is your initial submission, and a very interesting one that you've made there. Of course, small-scale miners are not to engage in some aspects of mining. And so if that is going on our river bodies, our water bodies, and in forest reserves, and no entity has a mining license to go into forest reserves in the first place. So that creates quite a picture. But from your end, when it comes to the small-scale miners, what do you feel your contribution has been to this entire menace? Your hands are not entirely clean, are they?
That is true. We cannot say we are entirely safe or free from these illegal activities. Yes, we have some of the recalcitrants who are doing their own thing, but the registered small-scale miners that we have, it is very difficult for us to admit that these illegal activities were part of it. But sometimes we need to agree that the devastation and the destruction of these water bodies affect everybody in this country. And we must take it as a holistic approach. First of all, who are the beneficiaries? Look, this fight against Galamsey, we are losing it because we don't want to speak the truth. We don't want to, all of us don't want to say the right thing, because always we try to beat about the bush because there are big wigs who are behind it. Those people that they always go to arrest and parade them, are they the financiers? Because in mining is a huge, a whole lot of money which you put in there. Look at these huge excavators which are in the forest reserves, and these chamfan machines on river bodies. Who are the financiers? So if we go on to arrest the one who goes in for survival, leaving the people who buy this equipment, and we don't even, with the national security experts that we have, with all the necessary security apparatus that we have, and they cannot go in to investigate and find out the culprits who are behind this thing. And we are blaming the youth who are going there for their daily bread. It will create a whole lot of mess. So this time round, let's all see it as a threat to the nation and see how best we are going to control this thing that we are talking of Galamsey. So my own submission as a communication director is that, look, authorities must speak the truth because we have regulatory bodies, we have the presidency or the executive who are controlling the security agencies. Are we sure this military people that we send to the field, this national security who goes to the field, are they doing the right thing? If they are not doing the right thing, let us fish them out. These big men who are behind this whole thing must be fished out. Because these forest reserves that they normally go, we've seen pictures and videos whereby security agencies are guiding people in the forest. So who asked them to go there? Who give that command? All these things we have to check and get to the root of the whole thing. Though we may blame chiefs, that is true, because it will be very difficult for a canoe to go on a river body to go and even fish while the chiefs will not be aware. So if chamfans are on the river body, the chiefs cannot exempt themselves. If chamfans are on river bodies, community leaders and assembly members cannot be exempted. District chief executive, they are having district security council and they're having district mining committees. What are the committees doing? Do they follow up to find out the reality on the ground rather than coming on television to defend themselves? So until we all admit and stop defending ourselves and stick to the truth, we will not get the remedy.
Let me bring in Elizabeth Va, who is with the Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group. Your team has petitioned the lands minister. Before I get into other substantive questions, give us some details of that petition.
So, once he was on, news file about 2-3 weeks ago, right. And he said we should be mindful of condemning all small-scale mining because it contributes 40% of Ghana's gold production.
So the question whom are you referring to? The lands minister?
Lands minister Abu Jinapo, yes.
Right.
So the question from our group is, where is this 40%? How much of this is actually coming to the state of Ghana for the benefit of the people of Ghana? Is the cost to the nation of this 40% gold production worth it? Has he done any cost-benefit analysis? How much of this gold is actually in Ghana's reserves? A few other questions. These do we know how these people are going about their production process? And where is mercury being used? Where is the gunk from the activities ending up? Is Ghana as a whole really, really ready to pay the price for that 40% that he mentioned that is only going into private pockets? I dare say that if you look at what actually comes to Ghanaians, it's not going to be even 20% of whatever billions of dollars is being taken out of our reserves, our forests and rivers that our people are going to be suffering for. We want to have a bit more information. And the youth deserves more than just becoming conduits, becoming a forgotten mess in this whole thing. They deserve better than what the lands minister and other people who are, championing small-scale mining and those things are doing. They deserve better.
When you
so we've asked them those questions, and we would expect to get answers, hopefully. Yeah.
Right. Now going to that latest Hotline documentary, Distraction for Gold, and what it clearly evinces that we are losing the battle against Galamsey. Where does that leave us? Because turbidity levels are higher than we've ever seen them. Our river bodies appear to be more polluted than we've ever seen them. The fish, the marine life, they are dying. Where they are still in existence, you'd see that they are deformed, so to speak. And no surprise, because these water bodies are, polluted by cyanide, by mercury, and all kinds of things. Where does that leave us in the fight against Galamsey?
In fact, looking at River Tanwa yesterday, I cried. I cried because Tanwa and Manzule are like, yin and yang. And Amazule is dark and beautiful, and the Tanua is said to be fair and just clean and so beautiful. Because of her gold, or I don't know whether it's a he or she, but because of the gold, and so these rivers together always did something to me. And looking at pictures of Tanua yesterday, I couldn't control myself. Now, are we going to get anywhere with this expose? A year ago, I was very optimistic when the president said all the flowery things and they were going about burning stuff. Today, I am not. I do not trust one bit in anything that our government is going to do in response to this. So for me, my call is to Ghanaians. There are 30 million of us. This is our 16th century moment. This is our version of the slave trade. Are we going to be watching the people who are giving the orders for people to go and arrest their fellow men for the slave market? Are we going to be part of the ones that are actually doing the catching and selling to the slave raiders? Or are we going to just sit by and watch all this go on, or find some hole to hide while all this is going on? What will history tell us? What will posterity make of us? There are 30 million of us. And in our various communities, I don't know how many of us go to our communities, even bother to check in on them. I'm looking at the Minerals Commission's own website. I don't know, I sent pictures of that to your producer. We have about 2,000 licenses, active licenses now. There are almost 6,000 applications that are waiting for approval. So imagine this. Even with the so-called legal side, if all these licenses go out into our communities, there will be nothing left. So we can't sit back anymore. I saw a picture like this of Joyin Lagoon, and that is what drove me on this road for the past 2 years. Every Ghanaian has to be concerned. I don't trust what our government is going to do. I don't know what anyone will tell me to make me believe anything different, because we've seen this before. We have even seen pictures of roads, first-class roads in between Enchi and what other town, and that road is being cut into two. It's been what is it? The Galamsey or whatever. They've cut that road into two. We've seen these pictures so many times, and thank you to Erasmus and all those actually putting themselves in harm's way, going to these places to take these footages. It's to prick our conscience. Let's call on our communities to stand up and fight for their heritage, because if we just sit there and let this come on up and down, we talk a few days, the media moves on, we all move on. We're just in our slave trade moment, and we are going to be looked on really, really badly by posterity. The government, the president, the words will come, very nice, beautiful words. I don't know if it will go anywhere.
All right. Right before I move on to Mr. Inusa once more, I just want to run this by you quickly. Someone on social media, a friend, ran it by me that, look, yes, the gold is worth a lot, but when the landscape is cleared like this, deforestation, the trees, what happens to them? The person suggested that there could be something, apart from the gold, these people could also be dealing in timber, lumber, and all of that, and cashing in on it. Is that an angle you've averted your mind to, something we should be considering as well?
Not necessarily. We've been more focused on the devastation to start with. What is being taken out of there, they've degraded the land, and whatever they're taking there is just what do you call it? Excess, the loot from what.
So what I mean is, initially, when this land is covered with trees and the rest in those forest areas, and then they engage in these activities, what happens to the trees? What do they do with them? No one is asking that question. Maybe they are even cashing in on those as well. That's another angle we should be looking at.
They're making a lot of money off of our backs at the risk of our country. these communities, and I just received a letter from Asem Krom Youth. They have listed 20 reasons why the Minerals Commission should not give their area out for any miners, whether legal or illegal. They have listed reasons. They benefit from everything on this land. That's all they know. And so these people who are going in there, they are cutting, almost they've cut down the trees, they've messed everything up. Whatever else they are doing out of it, they are cashing in on our ignorance and on our inability to stand up for our communities. And I am not going to hold the people in power, I'm not going to leave them out of this. They know who are doing this, and they are not acting because they are benefiting from it. All of them. Look, this Chairman Want Me issue came up where in the early months of August. It had already started when the people from Samre Boy started getting in touch with some of us. It took this government, how many? Almost 2 months to come up with even a letter. And Chairman Want Me is walking around. Akwanta Mining still holds on to their licenses. When will this happen? If I had the opportunity, or if anybody who really means to do something about it was doing something, Akwanta Mining's licenses for any other place will be cancelled forthwith. And then somebody would right now be in police hands answering to why they are in this forest, the Nimre forest. But who knows what's happening to all those trees there? Who knows what's going to be the fate of that particular forest reserve? He's walking about free, and even the people who brought this issue up, now they are in danger. This is how we turn things around in this country.
Right. Let me come to Inusa Fuseni on this matter. And Inusa, it's interesting. Even before I pose my question, there is this message coming through from Engineer Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe. I'll just read it right after I'm done with this. So we know about what happened, the stiff resistance from groups like Arosha, among others, when it comes to the Etiwa Forest Reserve and why we didn't want it to be mined. And the interesting bit that these forest reserves are not meant to be mined. We've seen people bequeathing forest reserves to their family members. Now we see people mining in forest reserves without a license. You can't have a license to do that. But on the specific bit of Akwanta Mining, let's start from there. Engineer Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, Dr. Ken Ashigbe sends me this message. He says, Chief, we the media, religious bodies, CSOs need to start a campaign to get signatures for the IGP and the AG, the Attorney General, to arrest, investigate, and prosecute the Akwanta Mining Limited, the directors and shareholders who should be held vicariously liable for the illegality as reported by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. That is his proposal as a citizen of Ghana. Your take, Mr. Fuseni.
I think that the lady who just spoke, I share with her entirely. And the Joy FM News File program she referred to, in which the minister alluded to the 40%, I was on it. And I indicated, I made a point. I said we should hasten slowly in putting monetary value on the contribution of small-scale mining to our economy, rather than the protection. We should put premium on the protection of the environment and not the amount of money that we get from small-scale mining. I thought that was a moral hazard that he was treading on the course of to give Ghana a moral hazard. I also on that program said that it was about time for the people of Ghana to resort to self-help, because elsewhere, my brother, crimes of that nature, of the nature that is happening in our country, within the Galamsey side, are called environmental crimes. And they have been classified as crimes against humanity. So these are serious crimes. Serious crimes. And so, you need to understand that the crusade against the illegal activities of small-scale miners, and I agree with Alasan, it is not only it is not only the illegal small-scale miners who are causing destruction. The large-scale miners too are causing destruction. But why we are concentrating on the illegal activities of small-scale miners is simply this. Large-scale miners and legal small-scale miners obtain permits. The permits stipulate the conditions under which they will mine. A withdrawal of their licenses can only come about if they breach those conditions under which they are supposed to mine. And so the Minerals Commission has a responsibility, indeed a duty, to monitor the operations of large-scale miners and small-scale miners who have been permitted to mine, to ensure that they mine in accordance with their license. That is why we don't normally talk about them, but we know that they also have some infractions because of the loose monitoring and regulatory regime. Look, my brother, the minister said that 40%, and the environmentalists have said it clearly. 40% of what? Against what? It will take the river bodies that have been destroyed close to 100 years, if we do natural resource accounting, close to 100 years to recover if we do nothing, if we just stop Galamsey and decide that we are not going to mine. It will take the river bodies close to 100 years, meaning probably none of us presently on earth in Ghana will be around when the river bodies return to their natural state. Now, are you talking about the fishes? There are no fishes. The river bodies are dead. They are dead. Just a few river bodies are alive, and they are struggling to exist. They are dead. Akunta mining, when I was a Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, was not a registered entity. The Chief Executive Officer of Akunta Mining had a mine support company, which was called Hansol Limited. And our investigations revealed that he was using the mine support company to mine illegally. We stopped him.
That is while you were still Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
We stopped him.
You stopped him.
We stopped him.
Which area specifically was he mining then?
In the Western region. In the Western region.
So if it was an illegality, why did the law not kick in apart from stopping him?
He was doing mine support. He was doing mine support. But the intelligence revealed that he was doing illegal activity. Okay? So he had a company registered at the Minerals Commission to do mine support. Okay? So we stopped him. We stopped him. We don't do mine support. He persisted. And this required recalcitrance. He persisted. We seized his equipment. He sent us to court. My brother, he came to my office many times. I said, you can't mine. You can't even provide support because you have breached the conditions under which you were licensed to provide mine support. He took it to many places. I stood my ground. He left me and went and joined a political party and got a license to mine illegally. He got the license to mine illegally. This is the situation. When we talk,
are you suggesting that he joined the MPP, for example, and by being a bigwig in the party, he was able to get, see his way through? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I'm giving the narration of events. I'm stating the facts as I know.
Well, just hit the nail on the head. You're practically saying that, so you might as well just confirm it.
What I'm telling you is that, you can't put words in my mouth. Let me state my case. My case is that he had Hansol Akunta Mining didn't exist. But when we even left office, MPP government paid him compensation for the seizure of the equipment. They paid him compensation for the seizure of the equipment. So when we talk about our lack of trust in government's capacity to stop the illegal small-scale mining, we know exactly what we are saying. I, as a former minister, as a Ghanaian, as an environmentalist, I believe in the environment. You talk about Etiwa. Etiwa has been declared as a globally significant biodiversity area. You know what it means? It means that the whole world, there are certain species of trees, crops, butterflies, and frogs that you will find nowhere except Etiwa. If you destroy their natural habitat, we lose the species. Etiwa serves as water source for 3 water bodies. If we destroy Etiwa, we lose the water. You know what that means? That is why I again come to the lady who just spoke. I mean, if you will tell me her name, I will refer to her name.
Elizabeth Va.
Elizabeth
She's
Ba.
with the Ghana Environmental Advocacy
That's why I agree with Elizabeth Ba. That look, what are we sacrificing our country for? What is the gain? I mean, if I went to Checheure while a minister, and the Queen Mother of Checheure told me that, look, minister, our forefathers, our ancestors knew that there was gold in water body, but they didn't mind the water body. Does it mean our ancestors were foolish? They were thinking about us. They were thinking about the children they were bringing forth. And their children.
Let me run these 2 thoughts quickly by you. Elizabeth Va spoke about what the minister said, about 40% of our revenue from gold coming from small-scale mining. But let's do the cost-benefit analysis from another end. The fight against Galamsey, the tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions we have pumped into it. Have we got any benefit? I mean, what we've pumped into the exercise and what we're seeing, things are not getting any better. That is one quick question. And the second one, the military has come out to say that in recent times that it is not involved in providing security or supporting any illegal miners. But time and again, we seem to see some members of our national security operatives, I'm not saying national security per se, but the security apparatus in our country somehow involved and maybe even protecting these people. Your quick reactions to those 2 questions as we wrap the conversation.
First of all, it's quite clear on the face of it that if we are going to remediate all the damage, the carnage, the destruction that has occurred in the small-scale mining side, 40% contribution of small-scale mining to the revenue we get from mining will not remediate that. It's quite clear. So you will see when you do a cost-benefit analysis, you will see clearly that it is a no-no area. I mean, we cannot sacrifice the environment for the 40%.
Right.
For the military involvement, it goes back to the time of Amewu as Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
John Peter Amewu.
Yes, you remember Amewu had said publicly, that information reaching him as minister was indicating that some military officers or military men were providing security for people to continue to mine illegally. It was reported in the graphic. You remember? And then the Minister for Defense, Dominic Nuttwood, said that he was setting up a committee to investigate that. I don't know whether you have seen the report of the committee.
Not the full thing.
No, but you have seen the report.
I have.
Okay. And he said what? They were not involved? He said they were not involved? So you see, it goes back to those days. And I have interacted with small-scale miners and community leaders because I'm interested, actually, to be honest with you. I'm interested. It is my interest in the protection of the environment and the regulation of the mining sector that convinced me to join Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's second attempt at fighting Galamsey. Because the first attempt, I told them they would fail because the strategy was totally wrong. So when Nana appeared and spoke, like Elizabeth said, they were all flowery and nice. I quoted some of his speeches in my introduction as chairman of the first session. But thereafter, everybody just went to sleep. Everybody just including Nanado.
So, with all these points that have been made, we're picking the solutions now moving forward. I'll give each of you just about a minute. In less than a minute for you, what is the way forward?
My solution is simple. But you can only solve Galamsey by a multi-stakeholder approach.
All right.
In any community, there are people, and Elizabeth says a group of youth wrote to him indicating that they would not permit legal or illegal small-scale mining in their area. When I was Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the late Offensive Unit said that in his area there was no small-scale mining because he would not permit it. Now, in Australia, communities have rights. We call them community rights. We also have it, but they are not enforced. That is why before a mining lease is granted, you have to go and do an open forum in the community to explain to the people what you want to do. If they agree, you can do it. If they don't agree, but we don't enforce it. And, and then all these community leaders are compromised. So what we need to do, first of all, 30 million Ghanaians, we have to take our destiny into our own hands. I like the analogy. It's the modern day slavery. We should not be complicit. We should not be passive. We should be active and prevent people who are coming to destroy the environment for our children and children's children. We have a duty to promote intergenerational equity.
Honorable Hussaini, we're immensely grateful for your time. Thank you so much for joining us here. Inusa Hussaini is a former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. The two others will also share their final thoughts. But before you do, Ms. Bao on our Facebook live stream says, whether legal or illegal, mining should be stopped. Decades of mining and self-reliance. The economy has never favored citizenry. Ghana can still generate income from the green environment without land degradation. I'll tie that into a question posed by Kobi Asma on page 17 of the Daily Graphic newspaper today in his editorial or opinion piece. He says, why are Chinese not doing illegal mining in South Africa where there is a lot of gold? Because they cannot do that there and the locals don't support such illegalities. Your final take, maybe you can squeeze in some thoughts on that. Elizabeth Va and Mr. Al-Hassan. I'll start with you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Obviously, we haven't been able to lay hold of where legal mining ends and where illegal starts. Both are doing this without recourse to the laws. I read the procedure document for small-scale mining in Ghana. It is beautiful. It hits every point, but obviously it's not working. So my recommendation to especially the people in the Nzima area, because Nzima says, if you're going to go crazy, start from your home. We should be able to say no to alluvial mining, because alluvial mining by nature happens in swamps, along riverbeds, and in such places, So we cannot, even if you give somebody land away from a river, they'll find a way to get close to it, because that is where the gold deposits are. We should say no to it, ourselves and our communities. And Mr. President, dealing with this thing it's not big. You don't need military patrols here and there. Just use the hammer that you've been given. Anybody who breaches their mining license, every license they have is cancelled forthwith. Anybody who is, even your DCs, who are sharing the forest and the lands to people and covering for these Chinese to come and mine, you hear of anything like that, you put the person away and investigate right away. The president has power to act on this. He's not using it. So it's up to us now. Our chiefs, please don't feign helplessness. You can mobilize your people to take care of your land and your rivers. This is all that you've been given. Without your land, your stool is useless. Let's know this, okay? Our land and our rivers make us who we are. Your people are looking up to you for security and protection because the state has obviously lost it in that sense. So we should all be able to stand up and say no to alluvial mining now, and let's make sure that we fix this mess because it is an existential threat. The Minerals Commission is really leading the sale of our country. When you go to their website, you cry. There are a lot of nameless companies doing all sorts of things, being given swaths of land in the hinterland of our country. For what? Peanuts. And you don't even monitor them to see what they're doing. So the Minerals Commission, I think it should be scrapped or something. But whatever the government does, the president does or doesn't do, people, citizens, Ghana, this is our slave trade moment. Are we going to go on the right side of history or the wrong side of history? You know, the slaves that we sold, at least we have a home they can come to. When we destroy Ghana, nobody has anywhere to go.
Elizabeth Va, very passionate words. We're grateful you took the time to join us. And she says this is our slave trade moment. And she also says the Minerals Commission should be scrapped. That is Elizabeth Va, who is with the Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group, and her team has petitioned the Lands Minister. Mr. Al-Hassan, you have the final bite in less than a minute.
Thank you very much, my brother. I share in the opinion of Honorable Husseini that this fight should be a holistic approach, and we need to see how best we all can all contribute to stop these illegalities which is going on. Because we can't only rely on government thinking that they are the only people who can do it. But government too should also give us a chance as industry players and Ghanaians to also see how best we can control these illegalities. Because sometimes government, security men, sometimes when you try to go in, they will come to a great problem by saying that you are not entitled, they are the security experts, and also they should give us the chance so that we, the citizenry, will all come together and see the way forward of this whole thing. And I will not buy into my sister's submission that they should scrap Minerals Commission. It is a sector whereby we, the small-scale miners, we have rules and regulations. So if the Minerals Commission...
Rules and regulations that a number of you are not complying with.
Compliance doesn't... you see, the whole the conversation should limit. The Minerals Commission or small-scale mine is meant for only and only Ghanaians. So if foreigners are part of it, then we should see how best we take these foreigners out. Like the person who sent you the message, South Africa, why are Chinese not mining there? So if those who are complicit, let's fish them out and see how best we can. But mining should go on, and it will go on properly, and if only we supervise it very well. And they will make sure that Ghanaians benefit out of it. Because that gold cannot be deposited there without us bringing it out. But it shouldn't be on the detriment of the environment and the water bodies. We can still mine very well without destroying our forests and then our river bodies. So if the big wigs who stay behind and push people into it, if we can come out and then hold them, I think this Galamsey fight will be a success. And that militarization, government should look at the other way, because we as small-scale miners have been saying it. We are the industry players. We've been in the system and we know the grounds. So not using the military, the force will solve the problem. The people who mine are also reasonable people. We are also in Ghana here, and we understand that if this environment and the water bodies are destroyed, then where are we heading towards?
All right.
And especially those on river bodies and the forest reserves, I still repeat, government should crack the whip and let us know that these people doesn't have any right to mine. And everybody capable should be prosecuted.
All right. Mr. Al-Hassan, we'll leave it there. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan is Communications Director, Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. All three of them joined us for this conversation. I have to read this message as I go. It's from one Philip Kukpau, who says, our media is part of the problem. They don't follow up on things to logical conclusions. They only touch on issues and leave them like that. Well, if you're talking about following up on illegal mining, Galamsey, I don't know whether you can find any other group that has done more work on this than the Multimedia Group. So while I can accept that maybe the media generally has not done enough or tends to go to sleep, at least give credit where it's due. And we shall follow up on these issues till their logical conclusions.